start कीजिए ना.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Kirti, Assistant Professor, Charakya National Law University, and we are discussing the various units and topics under the course titled as Organizational Theory and Design. The code of this course is MMPH 001, and today we'll be discussing the last block, which is Unit 9, 10, and 11 of this particular course. So, starting with the ninth unit, which is titled as Emerging Trends at Work. So, after going through all the sections of this unit, you'll be able to understand the upcoming trends in the work organization and the concept of quality of work life and how these emerging trends affect the quality of work life of the employees. So, talking about the structure, this entire unit is divided into 4 to 5 sections, and then you'll be having your self assessment question section and the case study and summary of the unit. So, but we'll be discussing only 4 sections as we have a time constraint with us. So, starting with the introduction, you'll be dealing with what are the emerging trends and then how can we analyze and foresee coming trends, and the last topic which will be covered in this unit is quality of work life. So let's see the background that how the work has evolved during different phases of our economy, and as you all have studied in HRD and during our first 2 3 units of this course, which is organizational structure and design, we've seen that the entire era can be divided into 3 to 4 different stages, like pre-industrial revolution phase, and then industrial revolution phase, then uh, post-industrial revolution phase, and then modern era. So these are the 4 various stages through which the work and the way it has been designed in the organization has moved along. So the concept and nature of work has undergone numerous change over past these 4 stages. And as if we can observe from the literature that during the 19th century, workers wrestled to safeguard their right to determine how and when they would work. Now, this was the great age of cooperatives, strikes, and political movements led by small artisans and defending individual methods of working against the factory system. Now, as the 20th century progressed, workers were gradually trapped within the formal economy of jobs and factories, and they tussled continuously to control the amount of labor they would have to give to the system in order to survive. Then we also observe that this age was the era of the struggle for the basic need and protection of interest of the employees or the working class, like for 8-hour work, for weekends off, for holidays, and for sick pays, and of a decent wage and guaranteed employment. So these were the basic demands or interests which could have been there at that point of time, and they the workforce had to struggle for these basic elements of their working life as well. So the defeat of these struggles has reduced the ability of working class to oppose an intensification and casualization of work, while increasing their dependence on the bosses to obtain the means to live. For some employees or working class, the working time has increased beyond the 8-hour shift into overtime and additional part-time work. And we could also observe that employees couldn't say no to the overtime. In low wage industries, workers got overtime work as a favor from the management and their labor unions or union leaders. It was also observed that companies avoided laws requiring premium pay or for overtime by calling it overstay and offering hardship allowances instead of overtime pay. Additionally, there has been a huge change from a long term employment with its often better pay and conditions to subcontracting and self employment. In this manner, the new economy, there are several changes in the nature of economic activities, such as strong growth in the service sector and increased level of productivity and growth over the globalized markets. So now we see that the work in new economy is deemed to be different to work in the old economic era. And because the spreading of information and communication technology, which is popularly abbreviated as ICT, has changed the way in which firms do business today and create value or add value to the society. Now, ICT has augmented the flexibility of capital goods, making capital investment more productive and encouraging firms to substitute capital for labor. Now, the trend contributes to the globalization of market has changed and the nature of work and its ramification for quality of work life of people has also evolved. Now, what can be seen as the emerging trends in the organization? The pressure of competitiveness due to globalization and prioritization has resulted in many far reaching changes in the workplace. Now, companies are designing their work system around the following four props, which is virtual organizations, flexible and adaptive workforce, contingent pay, and democratic governance at the workplace, keeping people engaged in the work of the organization and making them realize that they contribute to the mission of the organization and is a key challenge. Now, in the next slide, there's a table which provides us the insight into the shift depending upon whether a company is engaged in traditional or agricultural or manufacturing or information technology and how it's leveraging the manufacturing and servicing sector. And this is the table which in which the last slide we have talked about, and it shows how the shift has been taking place. So, if we take for example the wealth aspect of the overall three different approaches or realm of work, then traditional agriculture was based upon land. An early or industrialization era was revolving around money or wealth, and then the post-industrialization service high-tech era realm of work, we see mind and information are the most important aspects. Okay, so this is the specific table through which we can see how this emerging trend can be observed and understood. Now, emerging trends and what are they? Let's see. First one is job insecurity and work intensification. As the work pattern has changed over the past decades, job insecurity has taken a toll in the minds of the employees. Now, thus, we see that there is a lot of unemployment, and people with high degrees and skills and competency are still struggling to be part of the employed workforce. And hence, as the jobs are few and the unemployment or is at a large pace, then there is a sense of job insecurity. Nobody knows that when they'll be getting fired from the organization. As we have seen the trend during the COVID, there were many organizations who went for retrenchment and cutting down the number of employees they would like to continue with. Then another challenge or trend in the work organization is work intensification. Now, a single employee knows that their workload has been increased with lots of tasks and duties which were not the part of their old job design. Then another trend we can see is flexibilization and casualization. Flexibilization is often presented as the creation of flexible working patterns, as we have talked about hybrid organizations and hybrid work mode during our past sessions. So many employees have no objections to flexible hours and working, but it is imposition of flexibility that provokes so much of opposition in the minds of the employees. Interestingly and not surprisingly, both those with interesting jobs are greatly in favor of flexible working. For them, it means more time with their family members, more leisure time, and more quality time. So, at one hand, flexibilization has given employees the freedom to spend some time with their family. On the other hand, it also poses some challenges and it makes them claim to be able to work smarter and harder. Then, mechad- McDonaldization of the entire work system. It is a system of producing goods and services in which the work process is broken into small parts and systematically analyzed, re engineered to maximize profit and minimize the wastage of resources. So, marginalization has led to a series of entirely independent, discrete, controllable actions and eliminating interdependent thought and creativity. So, employees become estranged from the process required to perform a series of meaningless tasks which they which they can view it as unnecessary in their job design. So, such alienation from the work produces depression, anger, and unthinking and uncaring rewardness from the other people at the workplace. Then another one is commodification of the work. Work used to be a purposeful and meaningful activity in the organizations. So, the emerging trend or the challenge in the work organization is commodification. There was a spirituality and contentment in working and cooperation to meet need of oneself and one's family and people. Now, people choose the work they did if they could, and they invest much of their personality and abilities in making the production of useful and better or meaningful things. Now, today, the supremacy of consumption on such a social good and confer to social status on people as individual had made the product far more important than the producer. So everything has been commodification or commodified. So work has died away to have a personal value for those who sweat. And in cases it does not have a social value to the society, and it might employees might think like that. Then another issue or emerging trend in work organization is rescheduling work arrangements. Alternative ways to scheduling the days and hours of work are increasingly common today. These arrangements reshape the traditional schedule, such as the 40-hour work or 8 to 5 day, in ways that better to accommodate individual needs. These arrangements, yes, help employees balance their work with their non work responsibilities and activities and are among the innovations commonly found at family friendly employees or employers. Then it was found that what can be the underlying trends that will shape the workplace volatility during 2022 and the coming years. So, the first one here we see the underlying trend could be the fairness and equity, which will be the defining issues for the organization. Though the work has become remote and the organizations are not sure whether to allow employees to work from home or come to the locations, if the work is flexible, then what should be the compensation to be paid to the employees is uh, of a great emphasis now. So the organization will have to address how to manage fairness and equity across the various levels in the organizations where employees are being posted. Then to compete in the war for knowledge, worker talent, and some companies will shorten the work week rather than increasing the pay. So many of the organizations are trying their best to retain those employees based on today's market scenarios. And though companies are able to retain the talent based on the compensation, other organizations may not be able to do so because of the constraints of their financial resources. Now, reducing the work hours employee need to work gives less liquidity to employers for a better chance to compete with the other organizations that offer higher overall compensation but don't offer reduced hours. So it can be a contrasting factor in the work environment. So ultimately, we're likely to see a handful of organizations adopt 32 work hour weeks with the same compensation as a new way to complete or compete for knowledge workers, which means the talented work pool. Then, third, a future trend can be employee turnover will continue to increase as hybrid and remote work become norm for knowledge workers. Now, today's workforce has, unfortunately, for many organizations, increasing flexibility will not slow the turnover in today's tight labor market. In fact, turnover will increase or for two reasons. And what are they? First, the social and emotional connection among co-workers is reduced because of this hybrid mode and flexibility in work, making the employees to quit their jobs as they are not able to cope up with the social pressure, as there is so much of isolation because of remote working and they do not feel connected to the organization, and they feel often overburdened with untimely work calls and emails. And then the second factor or reason is that second, the pool of potential employees increases when hybrid and remote work becomes the norm. Then another future trend which we could see or foresee is that managerial tasks will be automated away. And this will create space for managers to build more human relationships with their employees because it is the need of the time as they are working in isolation and apart from the team where they should have been working. As most of the tasks automated, it helps managers to focus on building relationships with their employees. This will help in slow attrition, thereby empowering the managers and helping the employees in and reducing the overall turnover rate. Then another future trend can be the tools that we use to work remotely will become the tools that measure and improve the performances as well. So, because of the remote working, meetings were held virtually and making the employees to focus on the issues without getting distracted on other aspects of work. So, thereby the qualities of meeting were also observed that it were better. If you see the one side of the coin when it comes to hybrid work mode, then another issue is the complexity of managing a hybrid workforce will drive some employers to require a return to the office. The organizations though encourage remote working nowadays, and we can see the trend ongoing in 2023 as well, as there has been lot of talk about the spreading COVID-19 again. So the organization, though encourage remote working, they also expect the employees to return to the office, and this may result in managing the challenges which can result in turnover rates as well. So once there is a side which or aspect of these future trends that this could lead to a better workforce, on the other side it also possesses some challenges for the managers on one hand to curb the urge to work on a remote basis, on the other hand to reduce the turnover rate as well. Lastly, the wellness will become the newest metric that companies use to understand their employees. Taking care of wellness of the employees should be the focus of the companies, which is presently very complex when employees are working afar and at a remote location. Then we see the another trend which has emerged through the past few years is quality of work life. We talk about work life balance and we talk about quality of work life. Here, the term work life balance or quality of work life has different meaning for different people. Some consider it industrial democracy or co-determination with increased employee participation in the decision making process. Another class of the organization thinks that particularly managers and administrators, the term denotes improvement in the psychology aspect of work to improve productivity. Now, another class, which is union and workers, interpret work quality work life as more equitable sharing of profits, job security, and health and human working conditions. Then other class of this organizational environment view work quality work life as improving social relationships at workplace through autonomous work groups. So every agent working a part of the organizational environment has a different take on what quality of work life actually means. Finally, others take a broader view of changing the entire organizational climate by humanizing work, individualizing the organization, and changing the overall structure and managerial system of the organization. Then the quality work life concept is based upon the assumption that a job is more important and it is more than just a job. If the center of person's life it is, in recent there has been increasing concern for quality work life due to various factors. Now what are these factors? Let's see. Increase in educational level and consequently the job aspirations of employees has also increased. Then association of workers had also increased and this has led to the increasing concern for providing them the quality work life. Now significance of human resource management has also increased and enhanced and thus it has led to the concern of quality work life being given to the employees. Now widespread of industrial unrest in the unorganized sector as well as to an extent to the of the organized sector, the demand for quality work life has also increased. Now another aspect is that as there is a spread of knowledge, awareness of human rights, awareness of various employee rights, the growing knowledge in human behavior etc has led to recognition of quality work life being provided to them. Now, as we have understood what quality work life actually means, let's see what are its objectives. So, the main objective of quality work life program is to improve employee satisfaction, improve physical and psychological health of employees, which creates positive feelings, quality of their entire well-being, then their entire work-life balance as well, their physiological well-being, their hygiene system, their recreational facilities, everything is thought about. Each and every aspect of employees is pondered upon when it comes to quality work life. So it's a holistic approach to give organizational climate a new sense where employees are being treated as talent and capital, but rather than just being mere staff or employee or human resource. Then job design is another part of quality work life. So it enhances the productivity of employees, reinforces workplace learning, helps improve management of ongoing change and transition in the organization. It helps to build the image of company as a best in recruitment, retention of employees, and general motivation of employees. So apart from quality work life, job design is also a trend which has been there from past decades, but it has also taken a new shape during this entire shift of paradigm due to the remote working or hybrid work mode. Then we see what can be the challenges or issues that quality work life will be affected from. So the questions are there which could be answered in order to tackle these issues. So the first question posed here is how to develop careers and that allows employees to realize their full capabilities, creativity and interests. Then the second question is that how to design the job to provide meaningful, interesting and challenging work experience so that the workforce doesn't get bored and feel stagnant. Then the third question is how to utilize group dynamics and participative management to improve the quality of work life at the workplace for our employees. Another question is that what supervisory or management strategy or style will help to improve this quality of work life. And the last question here is that how can the desired organization be changed or changes should be carried out that it helps to maintain the quality work life for the employees. So if these questions are being answered, the job is 80% done to maintain a quality work life of the employees in the organization. Now here are some suggestions for the different groups in the organization for having an improved quality work life. So from the perspective of employers, what their responsibilities could be. So the first here is provision of physical amenities at workplace. Health and safety measures should be of utmost importance, and then workplace should be having the welfare provisions for the employees. Then involving workers in decision makings on all the matters related to them would be a better tool to have a quality work life for them. Then instilling or initiating suitable forms of work design, formalization of quality work life experiences for future use as well, a re-examination of policies of work and what are the procedure and different code of conducts are there is also a responsibility for employers to have a quality work life at the best level. Then developing an appreciation of changing environment should also be there so that the employees could feel a sense of belongingness with the organization and should accept the change coming from the external environment. So the next perspective is through the union or workers and what responsibilities they could have for a better quality work life. So educating and making workers aware about the quality work life is one of the challenges and responsibility of union and the union leaders. Then search areas for collaboration with management can also be done for improved quality work life. Then identifying various ways and means to satisfy the workers' needs through more non-monetary or monetary alternatives is another responsibility that could be taken by unions and their leaders for maintaining a quality work life in the organization. Another two objectives or responsibilities can be to organize labor in the unorganized sectors as well and especially make them aware about the quality work life which can be a challenge because it is an unorganized sector and awareness is at a very low rate in that sector. Another responsibility is to encourage employees to participate in quality work life activities if it is being designed by the organization, by the employers, or the management side. Then, responsibility of professional organizations, what they can be to improve the work life balance or quality of work life. So, organize workshops and seminars to bring out the greater awareness of quality work life and what it can be, what it means, how it can be improved. Then initiate a specific research project in this field and have a various studies focused towards improvement of quality work life and check the level that exists in the organization. Then provide professional assistance to organization to help generate internal competences and thus contributes toward the improvement of quality work life for the employees. Developing a state-of-art profile on quality work life in the organization is another responsibility from the part of professional organizations. Then developing special programs for various classes of workers is also a responsibility. Apart from developing a network of collaboration, collection, storage, and dissemination of the information and spreading awareness on quality work life. Then responsibility from the part of the government, legislation, standard, and norms in newer areas should be there to focus on the quality work life at the workplace. Then change in the policy to provide greater autonomy to experiment with quality work life. Execution action of to ensure implementation of legislated facilities. Encourage and adopt of appropriate technology for advancement of workforce and their quality of work life. Then finding projects on quality work life and sanctioning them so that the studies could be done and suggestions should be given to the organization who are in dire need, and suitably modifying the structure and scope of education in the country is also a measure that could be taken by the government for an improved quality of work life for the employees. Some of the techniques used to improve quality of work life on an average worker in India are job redesigning. We have already discussed these terms during our human resource development classes. The videos are available on YouTube, which you can view it afterwards. And the term here are job redesigning, career development, autonomous work groups, flexible work schedules, participative management, job security, administrative justice. So these are the various aspects or tools or instruments which can be used by the various agents of the organization to have an improved quality work life for the average workers in the organization. So here we come to the end of Unit 9 and we'll be starting with Unit 10, which is role of organizational culture in overall organizational structure and design. So what is actually a culture is and how it functions for the organization will be studying in this particular unit. And by the end of this unit, you'll be able to understand the homogeneity and heterogeneity in the work organization culture and understand the transfer of mechanization mechanisms to perpetuate this organizational culture and what can be the relationship between the design and the culture of the organization will be understood throughout this particular unit, which is unit 10. So this is the various these are the various sections in this particular unit, and the structure is laid in front of in front of you. So first we'll be discussing the background on introduction, then concept of organizational culture, continuing with the uniformity and transformation, and then we'll be discussing how design and culture are interlinked. So, starting with the background in earlier units, we have understood the theoretical framework and fundamentals of overall organizational design, structure, their types, their feature, how they are affected, what are the various elements which play a different role in designing and redesigning the organizational structure and at its various stages. Then to grasp the internal dynamics on the organization, a discussion of organizational culture is very essential. So what organizational culture actually means? It is a set of shared assumptions, value, beliefs, and practices that help employees to understand their organization and learn the acceptable ways to behave. It also represents those unwritten and intangible parts of the organization which are largely go unnoticed. So the power of organizational culture becomes visible only when the managers try to implement new strategies, various policies, and which go against the basic cultural norms of their organization. So you can see or observe When there is a change in the cultural norms, then only the organizational culture will be felt in a prominent way. Then it resembles an iceberg and can operate at two levels. We know that iceberg is viewed in such a way that we can only view up tip of it, and the larger part of that iceberg is always submerged under the water. So the surface are visible and practices and the observable behavioral patterns. These include the way people dress, act within the company, the power structure in the company, various stories and ceremonies which are there in the organizational climate, and traditions that are upheld by an organization and its members. Now, these surface practices are in turn a reflection of the underlying assumptions, which are the larger part of the iceberg, which is submerged under the water. And it relies upon the value system, the belief of the organization and its members, which are largely invisible. And they constitute a bulk of the cultural practices that an organization has. Hence, a merged change in visible practices without a corresponding change in the deeper values that drive such practices make cultural change untenable and in the long run. Then organizational culture therefore provides employees with an identity and generates a commitment in them to believe and value that are larger than themselves. So people always keep their culture, norms, beliefs, values above them, and they act accordingly as per the culture. So, yes, the culture is being observed by the people, way they act, they dress, they talk to each other, they maintain a relationship, they bring or they build the entire network of their relationships in the workplace. What underlies is the overall norm, belief, values, moral system which shapes up the upper tip of the iceberg and which is only visible. So the invisible part is more dominant than the visible part because the visible part is dependent upon the larger part which cannot be seen. Okay. So now culture has two major functions in the organization. Let's see what they are. First is the internal integration, and the second one is external adaptation, which is very important in the entire work culture or entire organization. So internal organizational environment depends upon integral or internal integration and synchronization of each and every agent or subsystem of the organization. Throughout the HRD and organizational theory and design, we have seen that integration, synchronization of various departments, various networks, various agents, and the alignment between the organizational goals and individual goals or team goals is very much important. This can only be brought with the help of internal integration, with the help of organizational culture only. So the organizational culture can be referred as the conduit through which employees identify with their organization. It guides their day to day working relationships, the communication channel, the pattern of communication, acceptable behavioral patterns, and the power allocation. Then culture can also help employees to take contextual decisions in the absence of written rules and policies because their moral, ethics, beliefs, norms are the ones who are guiding their everyday exhibited behavior. So, if there are not contextual decisions to be taken on the basis of certain rules and policies, but they are not in written form, the culture would be the one guiding force acting there. So, it's very important as it shapes up the entire internal organizational environment and thus acts as an internal integration force, which is very much important for the organizational development and learning process. Then the second function of the organizational culture is external adaptation. We all know that the environment is volatile and dynamic in nature and the change is only constant when we're talking about every factor or variable acting in the business environment. So the organizations can only survive when they adapt to those changes. So culture helps the organization meets its goal and guides dealing with the external stakeholders. It can help organization respond to the customer needs or competitive strategies. Thus, both functions of culture help build organization social capital by building positive and or negative relationships within and outside the organization and to adapt to various changes and patterns from the external environment. So, the uniformity of organizational culture is of utmost importance, and the functions could be done by the culture when there is uniformity, when there is homogeneity. So, through the manifold definitions of organizational culture, it is understood that culture represents a common perception held by the organizational members. So, this common perception, however, does not deny the existence of subcultures in the organization. Like if there is an office in Delhi and people are coming from different backgrounds or different regions of the country, they'll all be having their own culture and they're bringing it on the table. So, this makes the organizational culture a very diversified one. So, this common perception, however, does not deny the existence of subcultures, and a dominant culture embodies the core values of the organization. So, one when refers to the organizational culture, they identify with the dominant culture of their organization, where they play the part of the employee. It is a macro view of organization that provides its distinctive identity and makes it a unique one, gives it the personality, gives it the uniqueness to stand out in the market. Then subcultures too are in evidence in the large organizations and are of two types. Vertical subcultures, which are when one product division, department, vertical or geographical division has a unique culture from other division of the same organization, and these are very commonly found in the organization as departmental